Okay, so today we're going to be talking about doing the DBQ and how to be successful at it. Just so you know, I'll be using Michael Hjort's PowerPoint on this. He's the gentleman that I went to the AP Institute with. He's a grader, so he knows what he's talking about. So his stuff will guarantee you some success if we use it correctly. We're going to start with the DBQ. Now, when we talk about the DBQ, what you need to know is it's 25% of your AP score on the exam. You will have 90 minutes to write the DBQ and the long essay. Both essays have to be done in an hour and a half. Write the DBQ first. You get that done and then you can focus on the long essay. There's no reason why, if you follow this plan, you shouldn't be able to get a 5 or 6 or 7 on your DBQ. The secret to the whole thing is planning. You have to plan your essays out before you start writing. You just can't open up the documents and just start writing. You have to plan what you're going to write. So we're going to go through the plan, the best way to write the DBQ. And it starts with the very first paragraph, obviously. And what we start our paragraph with first is contextualization. Contextualization, basically, you're going to provide knowledge to your reader that's not in the essay. You're going to give a broader scope of historical events that are going on, developments that have happened, or how we got to the point we're at now where we're going to write this essay. I'm going to tell you that we're going to use what's called the Star Wars version of contextualization. Your contextualization shouldn't be just a sentence or a reference to something. It's got to have some meat to it, about 3 or 4 sentences that's going to tell the reader exactly where we stand. So when we talk about the Star Wars version, I'm sure a lot of you guys, or not all of you, have seen the Star Wars movies, and they all start with contextualization. And here's an example. Let me get to it here. You can just see it for yourself. Okay, and there it is. That's your contextualization. It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil galactic empire. They have just told us where we are picking up in the movie. They're giving us the context of where we are. And that's what you're going to do with your essays. You're going to give context to the reader, explaining where we are in history. Okay? So that's contextualization. That is one point. That should be an easy point for you to get. The next point you can get in your introductory paragraph is the thesis. Now, the thesis that you're going to write for the DBQ is very similar to what you did in the long essay. But instead of topics, you're going to be talking about groups. Before you even start writing the essay, you're going to go through your documents in the DBQ and you're going to group those documents. And that's what you're going to list in your thesis statement. Now, what I recommend, before I go any further, when you're writing your essay, write out the word contextualization and then cross it off and put that there. Write out the word thesis, cross it off, and then write your thesis. Some people say, oh, that's going to look messy and I don't like messy papers, I'm so ADD and all this other stuff. No, write it down there so you remember to do it. Write it down there so the reader sees what you're doing. So let's continue with this. When we look at the paragraph structure of the very first paragraph, the first, I'd say 3, 4 sentences at the most is your contextualization. Set the stage. Start it off. It is a period of blank. It's a period of civil war. It's a period of economic depression. It's a period of a rise in terrorism. Set the stage for your reader. Give the context to the question you're answering. Your 4th sentence will be your thesis statement. Make sure you answer the question. Take a position Answer the question, use your historical thinking skills, and document and list the groups of documents that you're going to be using. Also, it is very common, 80 to 90% of DBQ questions have a time period in there, 1820 to 1848, 1861 to 1865. List that time period from the question in your thesis statement. Now remember, it's a thesis statement, it's not a thesis sentence. Then your next 3 sentences will be the roadmap, where you're going to outline the topics or the groups you're going to be discussing and how they're going to be used. So you're going to outline that first group and tell the reader how you're going to discuss that topic. And you're going to do the same thing with the 6th sentence for your second topic. Then you can do the same for your 3rd topic or your 3rd group that you want to talk about. But here's an option. You might have 5 documents that support your argument, but there might be 2 documents that don't. It's here that you might create a contrarian argument. So instead of saying, I'm going to talk about my 3rd group of documents which will prove my thesis, instead you can say, however, this is what we call the however group. While these 2 groups support my thesis, however, this group provides an alternative viewpoint which needs to be discussed as well. So that's what you can do here. That's going to bring us down into the body paragraphs. At this point, you've had the opportunity for 2 points, okay? 2 points that you could have earned. In the body paragraphs, you can get a point for argument development, and this is where you basically create or develop and support an argument that recognizes the historical complexity of the question, okay? You will have to use all 7 documents. There will be 7 documents given to you in the DBQ. You must use all 7. So how do we develop an argument? You're going to have several options to do that. The however option. This is you can get a point just by creating that contrarian viewpoint that we talked about in the thesis statement. It's an alternative view to the thesis based on 1 document or group of documents. So you get a point for argument development there. You should be able to show why this is contrary to your thesis. It's not just done with a sentence. You can't say document 5 is contrary to my thesis because it shows how Lincoln actually did not believe the slaves should be free. You have to build on that. You have to provide evidence for that, okay? Usually it's going to take a whole paragraph to provide that contrarian viewpoint. Another option, you can show how all the groups, how they corroborate or support your thesis statement. And that's, if you do all 3 paragraphs that way, you get a point for argument development. For example, perhaps documents 2, 3, and 6 all help to support one argument, and 1 and 4 can corroborate it or support that argument. And 5 and 7 also support the argument. These groups, your topic paragraphs, will explain your thesis. Everything has to tie back to your thesis statement. Option 3, I'm going to hesitate. This is more higher order thinking. This is where you can show how multiple documents qualify your argument. And you can recognize that for instance, 2 of the documents has something else entirely different going on, but it qualifies what you were saying earlier in the essay. This is really something you would do with a 2nd or 3rd draft essay. This DBQ that you're going to be writing for the AP exam, that you're going to be writing for me in class, this is just a first draft paper. You're not going to get to do draft after draft after draft. When you're sitting in the AP exam and you have 90 minutes to write 2 full essays, you're not going to have time to do all this. So I would recommend not even using this option. I would either, try to corroborate, support your thesis with your 3 sets of groups, or provide a contrarian viewpoint. That will get you your argument development point. The fourth point, if you utilize the content of every single document, whether you're using it to support your thesis or to provide a contrarian viewpoint, use all 7 documents. Basically, when they provide these documents for you, they have done the research. Pull out the big ideas from each document that will help you answer the question they present to you. When you're writing, you need to cite each document. You don't need to spend time citing it by author. You don't need to spend time citing it by topic or document name. Just use the parenthetical reference, such as document 1, document 2, document 3. What this is going to do is going to allow you to keep track that you've mentioned every document in your writing. It's also going to help the reader see that you have mentioned every document in your writings. So make sure you reference every document. When you by utilizing all the content of all the documents that supports your thesis and you provide a relevant argument, you are going to get this full point. So, how do we do this? This is what your planning comes down to. As you read every document, as you try to answer the question, you need to underline, circle whatever you have to do, whatever you think is relevant to your thesis. I have the first paragraph here from the Declaration of Independence, and you can see that the ideas I've picked out of here is life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the right of people to alter or abolish it and to institute a new government. These are the key points I'm going to pull from this document. Now, what I need to do for each of those documents is now go through HIP. The historical context, the intended audience, the purpose, or the point of view. I only need one of those for each document. I don't have to HIP all 6 documents. I can just pick one of those 4 for each document. I may want to get historical context from one document. I may want to get purpose from 2 documents, point of view from another 2 documents. So that's what you're going to do with each document in the DBQ packet. And then what you're going to do is you're going to write out the following phrases into your body paragraphs to HIP the 6 documents. So basically, here we go. The historical context of document A is and why. The intended audience of document A is and why. The purpose of document C is, and then tell me why. And finally, the point of view of the author in document 6 is and why. Tell the reader exactly which analysis you're going to use. If you're going to provide historical context, saying, hey, the historical context is this. The purpose is this. Don't try to get fancy. Just use these lines. Now, a lot of people are going to use you can use this right here, the Paul Revere. We did this in class where we talked about it as an example. The historical context of document A is the Boston Massacre. And it's important because the intended audience of document A is colonists, because it shows the colonists actually being the victims of the English soldiers. The purpose of document A is to rile up an anger towards Great Britain so the colonists will get behind the idea of independence. Okay? That's what you want to do for each document. Now remember, you only have to choose one of these. If I say the purpose, if I use purpose for this picture, that's all I have to do. I don't have to provide any other analysis.